Hi folks, welcome. This is English 191, Rhetorical and Analytical Writing. I am the professor of the course, Dr. Matt Barton, although please do call me Matt. If you call me doctor, that means I get to operate on you, and I don't think you'd like that. I'm not that kind of doctor. This course is about one of my favorite things in the world, which is writing. I love to write. I've always liked to write. Even when I was a kid, I'd sit in front of a word processor and write stories about space creatures and aliens and kids flying around in gyrocopters and things of that sort. And I hope that I'll be able to share some of that affection I have for writing with you, because I honestly believe the only way you can get better at writing, or anything for that matter, is if you have some passion for it, if you care about it, if you really want to get better at it, not just to make money or to make a good grade, but just because you enjoy doing it and you want to impress people with your writing ability. And so that's the main thing, that if I don't do anything else in this course but make you like writing more than you do now, I will be very satisfied that I have accomplished a great thing. Hopefully though, we'll be able to hit some other bases. But just for now, I want you to tell yourself, no matter what's happened before, no matter what experiences you've had with other writing classes, for good or ill, did I say eel? Anyway, no matter what, just tell yourself now, that's in the past, and from now on, we're going to enjoy writing. It's going to become one of your favorite activities. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself before we get into the content of the course. I grew up in Louisiana, and I moved from there to Florida. Got my PhD at the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. It's a little bit warmer there than it is here in lovely St. Cloud, Minnesota, but you know, as hot as it is outside today, I really can't even tell much difference. Now, I am an author as well. I do a lot of publishing in the field of video games in the industry and video game studies. I've got a book called Dungeons and Desktops, and one called Honoring the Code, with interviews. I've also done vintage games with Bill LaJudas, and working on a new one about vintage games systems. So if you like Nintendos, Ataris, ColecoVisions, Sega Genesis, you know, all that sort of thing, you probably like those books. Also, of course, do academic articles, a lot of stuff about wikis and blogs and social media, like a certain application you've probably heard of called Facebook. Done an article on that. I love those kind of things because it's combines two of my loves. You know, it's a lot of writing involved. People, you don't like to write. I bet I go to your Facebook page and see a lot of writing there. Now, you may not consider that to be writing, but it is. And there's a lot of the principles you use when you do a Facebook page, Facebook profile or message, are the same sort of concepts we'll be working with when you do a college level essay. So don't, give yourself some credit. You've got more experience writing than you may realize. Now, why do you need a course? Most people know they need a writing course, okay? But they may not know exactly why. Well, duh, I need to take this class so I can make better grades on my college essays. Well, that's true, but it's only a very small tip of the iceberg there, right? The tip of the pyramid. You need to know how to write, not just for when you're in school, but after you get out of here. It's probably even more important is writing at the workplace. There's a class you can take after this one called English 332, where we really focus in on like resumes and business plans, business proposals, putting together a professional PowerPoint presentation. All of these things are important, far more than just your classwork. Let me give you some quotations and statistics here. For law school, for example, there's I think he's the head of a law firm. I didn't actually write down what the guy does, but his name is Bryn Valor, and I know he runs a law firm. So he says, in my firm, the first thing new lawyers will be judged upon is their writing. The fastest way to get ahead as a new lawyer is to be an able writer. You probably know a little bit about law, and that there's a lot of things they have to read, but you might not have known that they also have to write a lot. And some of the lawyers I've talked to, they tell me this. I remember talking to one, I said, what do you wish that you had studied more in college? And he said, I wish that I had taken every damn English class they had, because I really struggle writing. You know, if I could just write well, then my life would be so much easier. And that's, you know, coming from the real deal. So I know he wasn't lying. So if you're thinking about a career in law, you know, this is where you need to be. Medical school. You know, you might have thought, well, if I'm a doctor, I'll be working with a scalpel, not a pencil. But as a matter of fact, you will. Just to get into medical school, you have to take a test called the MCAT. And half of that test is reading and writing. There's also plenty of statistics you can find about business. You know, that routinely these magazines, you've probably seen some of these, they'll round up some top employers around the country or around the world sometimes and ask them, you know, what do you look for in your new hires? Because, you know, some of these people might get hundreds, if not thousands of resumes, all sorts of technical skills and things of that sort, but the employers always say communication skills. That's what they need. They need people that can communicate. Now, this could mean speaking ability, right? But it's probably writing, because most of us know how to talk. But it's a whole different thing to know how to write well. You probably know people that can speak well, but hey, they can't put a paragraph together. Well, you really need both. I love that show, Hell's Kitchen, with Chef Gordon Ramsay. And I noticed even there, it's cooking. You know, it's as far away as you can get from a grammar book, right? But yet, time and time again, that's what comes down to why people lose, is they can't communicate, or they don't communicate with the other people there. I mean, they don't know how to collaborate, they don't know how to communicate, and even when they write their menus, I'm sure it's a disaster. So you really need to know how to communicate orally, and there are classes at St. Cloud State just for that, which I strongly recommend to everybody. Now, I don't care what your major is, take every class you can get in oral presentations, public speaking, that sort of thing, and also writing. Because it doesn't matter what field you go into, those two skills are going to be huge. Now, other things that you can learn indirectly as you work through these essays are going to be valuable as well. Being able to analyze problems. One of the things that gets said a lot in college is we're training you not for the jobs of today, but for the jobs of tomorrow. Because the jobs of today may or may not even be here in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But there will definitely be new jobs, and there's no way we can train you for a job that doesn't exist. There's just no way, unless we have a time machine, I guess. But imagine a job like web designer. You know, back in the 70s, could you go to school to be a web designer or a video game designer for that matter? Of course not. So what we have to think about is, how can we teach you how to teach yourself? How can we teach you how to see a problem that you have no idea how to solve, but be able to do some research on it, to study it, to experiment with it, and come up with your own solutions? That is the skill that you have to learn how to develop and keep developing all throughout your life. Computer skills. You know, this is kind of up there with writing. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a nurse. I don't need to know anything about computers. That is talk to a nurse. That's all I have to say. Ask a nurse how often he or she uses computers, and I think you'll be surprised, especially if you think they never use computers. They use all kinds of databases, and some of them really sophisticated stuff. So computers play a huge role in that. Plus, you know, while I'm on talking about nurses, they really have to be good communicators. I mean, if they mess up and write something confusing or incorrect, they can actually may possibly even kill somebody, right? Because they're the ones that communicate between the patient, the doctor, and the nurse. The nurse is in between those two, trying to communicate things, and if they do a poor job, it could have very bad consequences. So not to scare anybody, but you know, this is about more than just where to put a comma sometimes, right? Teamwork, another huge thing. Unfortunately, a lot of writing classes, you only write for yourself, right? It's just one person, one essay gets submitted. Nobody else looks at it but the teacher. The problem with that is that's the only place you'll ever do that. Once you get out of college and get into a job, almost any important, I'll go ahead and say this. Once you graduate, any important document you ever work on for the rest of your life will be collaborative. There's not going to be anything that you're just going to write yourself and send it out there. The reason is it's too important. And the things that you'll be writing, there's no way one person could do it all. Take a business plan. You're going to be consulting with people on that from the lowest rungs to the highest rungs. The nurse example again. She's going to be interacting with the doctor, the patient, other nurses, other levels of technicians and all these sort of things. Scientists, they collaborate on a huge scale, sometimes as many as hundreds of co-authors. You've probably heard about the Super Collider. Those are articles that come out of that. Basically, every person that had anything to do with that is going to be an author on the report. This could be thousands of people that have to somehow collaborate. And so you see, there's a lot of collaboration. And if you are the type of person, I get this sometimes, I'll say, how many people would like to do a group project? And people are like, oh, how low can I get my hand? Well, job interview time. How well do you like working with other people? Oh, I love working with other people. I love going. Well, you can't keep the bullshit up forever, right? And the classroom is actually a great place to collaborate because, so worst case scenario, you fail the class. But you learn something about collaboration that's going to be very valuable. And if you think that somehow magically, once you get into the job, that the people around you are going to be so much easier to work with than your classmates, well, some of you older students can probably chime in on that and just let the younger folks know it's not going to be that way. Okay, let's see, what else do I have here? I guess I'll leave you with this. I got the whole semester. We can talk, but I'll leave you with this. One of my favorite things about teaching is the idea of the cycle of learning. And this is true no matter what you want to study. And really, the thing about learning that might shock you is you really don't need a teacher. If you think that you need a teacher, you really need somebody to, you probably just need more confidence in yourself, right? The teacher is not some sort of magical being that can just, somehow transfer knowledge into you. And, it just doesn't work that way. Instead, it's going to be a lot more on your shoulders. At best, a teacher can point you at resources, kind of speed up the process, maybe point out things that you would take longer to realize, right? But the teacher's never the first thing the teacher is not the most important thing for learning. Instead, there are these three things. The first is, it's got learning up here, but this is basically your research, your book learning, your YouTube learning. Let's say you want to learn how to play golf. I picked that because I don't know anything about golf. I know it's guys in funny-looking outfits out on a golf course with some clubs and some balls, right, and some holes. I've seen Caddyshack. That's about it. So if I want to learn how to play golf, I need to do some research first, right? So I'm probably going to go to Wikipedia and just read about golf. Hopefully they'll have the rules there so I can study those. Maybe they'll have some links and go look at that. And then I'm probably after that going to go to YouTube and type in something like golfing for beginners or golfing for idiots, and watch some videos and see if I can get some learning that way. But I could do that for weeks, months. Is that going to make me a good golfer? Absolutely no way. But it will give me something to think about. And that's I'll get to in a moment. So I've got that done. Okay, next thing I want to do is practice. So I go to the golf course. I rent some clubs, rent the khakis, whatever I need. I get out there and I start, and I'm probably going to be miserable. I'm probably going to be terrible. But I'm going to also be thinking about, okay, what am I doing? I'm a little bit closer that time. Okay, let's see. What did I do differently that time? Okay, what did that tutorial, that YouTube video, what was that they said in there? Oh yeah, that's right. I need to, stand this way. Or they said, they warned me about this in the video, or I remember reading about this. So I'm always reflecting back on what I've learned, applying it to what I practiced. Now, hopefully, as I continue to learn golf, I'll also get the chance to work with some other golfers and play with them. And what's really great, and if you don't believe this works, then play darts. And hopefully, if you don't know how to play darts, that's even better. Because what you'll notice is, if you play darts with other people that are really good, you'll be better. You'll shoot a lot better than if you play with people that are terrible. And the reason is just there's so many things that you learn without being consciously aware of it. It's just being around those people. You're going to be almost subconsciously picking up techniques that's going to improve your game. That's why if you want to be a good writer, it's always good to be reading good books. You may not be able to go to Stephen King and sit down with him and have a conversation about writing, or have him teach you, but if you read his books, you'll start to pick up on some of these techniques just subconsciously. That's why anytime I have a really great writer in the class, I can ask them, do you like to read? And they always, of course, say yes. They read all the time, and not just for school, but because they enjoy it. Now, so I said at the beginning of this lecture that I wanted you to love writing. Well, you also have to love reading. Now, if you are the type that just hates reading, you've never read a novel, you can't even make it through a TV guide. I guess I just dated myself. I don't even know if the TV guide still exists, but you get the idea, right? You're not going to get very far. Now, what I suggest you do is take yourself to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and just find some not serious books, okay? Just fun stuff that you like, that looks interesting. And they've got so many books on so many topics. I don't care what you're interested in. There'll be something there that you will like to read. And just start reading for pleasure on the side. And I can guarantee everything is going to get better for you. Your writing is going to improve, and that's going to improve all of your other grades and all of your other classes. So anyway, coming back to this idea so you learn something from the books, the videos, you go out, you practice it, and then you reflect on what happened. Now in golfing, you can see how this would happen. In writing, you can practice writing every day. You can, like I said, a Facebook status update is writing. If you keep a blog, if you'd like to tweet, if you like to send texts, you can even practice it with a text. Sometimes you can scare your friends by sending them a grammatically correct text. They're like, oh, did somebody steal your phone? That's always fun. But you're kind of experimenting with different techniques and to see what works and what doesn't work. If you send an email and the person how many times I'm sure this has happened to you, right? You send an email and you're just trying to communicate something. Not trying to be offensive, definitely, but the person gets angry. And it's like, how could you? And you're like, what? What the heck? And you just have no idea. But then if you go back and look at the email, you can finally see, well, I can see now. The person didn't interpret that right. Well, that person's dumb, right? They should have interpreted that right. I hate to break it to you, but that's your fault. You're the one communicating. It's your responsibility to try to be clear and not be ambiguous and not, create that unintentional offense. That's one of the things that we'll learn about in this class is concept of ethos. Thinking about how you're coming across. Maybe you're not aware of it, but that's no excuse. You can't just say, well, I didn't mean to be offensive. Point is, you were offensive. And if you get the right training and you think about what you're doing and you practice and you learn from your mistakes, you won't be offensive anymore. So that's just some of the things we'll learn about in this class. Now we've got a lot to cover here, so I'm going to end it here, and I look forward to talking with you next time.